Okay, this video is on factoring trinomials. I notice a lot of you guys are having problems factoring, especially when you have a coefficient in front of the x squared. Several are getting stumped by that, so I'm going to make a video for this. So we're going to call this method a magic box method. Sometimes people call it the box method. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to call this F and L, meaning the first and last. So you're going to take your first and your last number right here, and you're going to multiply those together right there. So then 2 times 28 should give us 56 negative. So I'm going to go ahead and put negative 56. And then the sum of this is going to be the number in the middle right there that we want. So we want a positive 1x right there. So I'm going to put a positive x. Okay, so now we have to come up with the number combinations of negative 56, or just regular 56 is fine. We'll start with that one. So 1 and 56, which is the obvious. Then we have is 2 and 28. Then we have is 4 and 14. And 7 times 8. Okay, so now with this right here, we have to either add or subtract somehow to come with positive 1. And it looks like 7 and 8 will work for us. If we have a negative 7x plus 8x, that will give us 1, right? Because it's basically 8 minus 1 is going to, 8 minus 7 will give us the 1. Okay, so then let's use this right here, the combination, and we're going to put it into our magic box. So the magic box right here, the first number right here will always be the first coefficient that we have right there, or first term. So that's the 2x squared right there. So we're going to replace that as the 2x squared right there. And then we have is the negative 28, and the negative 28 is always going to be down here. Okay, and then from there, the two boxes will be filled in with these two terms that we just found. It doesn't matter which order you put it in, so go ahead and just put it into one of the boxes. So I have is negative 7x and then positive 8x right there. Okay, now what we're going to do is now we're going to go across and we're going to say what do they have in common. We're going to factor out. So between 2x squared and 7x, they both have in common is an x right there. So I'm going to take out an x right there. Between 8x and negative 28, they both have is a positive 4 in common, right? Because 4 goes into 8 and then 4 goes into 28. If you don't know some of the combinations like 28, you may want to break it down just to see what do they have in common. Okay, now we're going to go downward. So 2x squared and 8x, they both obviously have an x in common, and also a 2, because 2 goes into 2 evenly and 2 goes to 8 evenly, so that will be 2x. And then negative 7x and negative 28 both obviously have negatives in common, so we're going to take out a negative, and a 7 in common, because 7 goes into 28 evenly. Okay, so we're almost there. We just need to now put these guys right here inside the parentheses, and then we're good. So I'm going to go ahead and put in 2x minus 7 and x plus 4. And it's plus 4 because it's a positive 4 that we said that they have in common. So if you have a positive and a negative combination, you're always going to use a positive out here. But if you have a negative and negative combination, then you're going to use a negative out here. Okay? So that's the answer right there. Now, if you want to check, let's go ahead and quickly check for this. So let's go ahead and distribute this. So it's going to be 2x times x gives me then 2x squared, right? Then we have is 2x times 4 right there gives us 8x. Then we have is the middle right there, so negative 7x. And then we have is the last one, which is negative 28. And then we just need to combine like terms right there. So then we have is 2x squared, positive x, minus 28. And that's your final answer. And that right there is what was the original problem right there. Okay, so it works. Now, the one that has a negative, I'm noticing from my practice, if you have a negative in front of x squared, the front of that coefficient x squared, probably the easiest way to deal with this is to factor out a negative throughout the whole problem and then deal with it just like how we did with this problem right there. Okay, so let's factor out a negative first, and then we'll deal with the negative at the end. So we have then is 3x squared. And now the sign changes because I factor out a negative, so that's going to become negative 11x, and also this is going to become negative 4 because we factor it out, okay? So doing the same thing, we're going to take the first and the last numbers right there, so the first and the last number, we're going to multiply those together, that's going to give us negative 12 right there, and we want the sum, which is negative 11x, and we need to come up with the different number combinations. So let's see, if we try out first 1 and 12, right, that's the obvious. Then we have is 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and I think that's about it, because if we go 6, then we go back to repeating this right here. Okay? So again, we need to add or subtract somehow these number combinations to come up with the negative 11. And it looks like probably 1 and 12 will work out, because if I had a positive 1x minus 12x, right, that will give us then negative 11x right there. Okay, so now let's use this combination right here in our magic box. So again, the first number that we're putting in, which is this number right here, the 3x squared, is going to be placed in the first box right there. So 3x squared right there. The last number, which is the negative 4, we're going to place it down here at the last box right there. And then I'm just going to put it in order the combination. So I have this 1x right there, so I have an x right there, and a negative 12x right there. And so now we factor out what's in common. So between 3x squared and x right there, they both have in common is just 1x right there, right? Because there's no numbers right there. Between negative 12x and negative 4, they both have a negative in common, and a 4, because right there 4 goes into 4 evenly, and then 4 goes into 12 evenly. Okay, so now let's go downwards. So 3x squared and x right there, say they both have is a 3x in common, right? Because this has an x and this has an x, so it can take out an x. And then 3 goes into itself, 3 goes into 12 evenly, so that goes to 3x. So then this right here is going to be x and negative 4. Now this is a little tricky. They both don't have anything in common except for a 1 right there. Because technically this is 1 times an x right there, and this is negative 4 times 1. So you could factor out as a 1 right there. Okay, so we're almost done. We just need to put this in the parentheses. So we have is then x plus 1, right, because it's a positive 1, and then x minus 4 right there. And that's going to give us the final part. Now, don't forget is this negative right there. Remember we said that negative that we factor out, so I'm going to put a negative out here. Now, it doesn't matter which one you're going to put this negative in. You're going to put it either into this box, parentheses right here, and distribute it to all of them, or you're going to put it into here and distribute all of them. But do not do it to both, because then you're going to cancel it out, okay? So I'm just going to, for the sake of convenience, just put it in the first one. So I'm going to distribute that. Gives me negative 1 right there. And then we have is then x minus 4. And then let's go ahead and distribute this out just to make sure it works. So then I have is negative 3x times x, which gives me negative 3x squared, right? Negative 3x times negative 4 gives me positive 12x. Then I have is the inside right here, which is then negative 1x. And then the last one right there, which is positive 4. So the combining like terms, right? 3x squared. So it gives me what? Did I do this correctly? Oh, I forgot this negative right there. Okay, so negative, because it's negative 1 times x gives me negative 1. Okay, good. So then that gives me 11x right there, and then plus 4, and that's our final answer. So which then, look at it carefully, is exactly the same as what we started at the original problem right there. Okay, so that's the only trick I found, that if you have a negative in front of the coefficient of 3x squared or something x squared, factor out the negative, deal with this right here, just like how we did with this, and then distribute this negative at the end. It could be either one of the parentheses, distribute in the first parentheses or in the second parentheses. It works into either one. But remember, it's only one parentheses you're distributing into and not into both. Okay? All right, go ahead and try these kind of problems now.